My fault. Let me get this set up in here today. Give me one moment. Hold on. Channel. So what's going on, people? This is Kid Shorty Gaming Nation in the building. Back again, here again. To address a lot of the disturbing lies being told on Caribbean blacks by FBA, or what you would call FBA. Now, what's sparking this or inspired me to make this live? Looking on Twitter and listening to various podcasters like The Angry Man, like when I watch Tommy Sotomayor or I listen to Tariq Nasheed, you have a lot of the FBA people coming from FBA saying that Caribbean blacks, it's really from African blacks, right? But the primary target from the FBA movement is against Jamaican blacks. And the accusations from FBA is that Jamaican blacks have always been prejudiced or tribalist, or didn't really see ourselves as part of the Black American culture, and that how Black Americans or FBA always accepted or was very welcoming or loving of Caribbean and Jamaican blacks or African blacks. Now, myself and many other Caribbeans would tell you, and I'm a what you call a Jamaican New Yorker, because I have Jamaican parentage, but I would say I'm forged by a New York culture, right? As a lot of Jamaicans are, right? We would tell you that our experience is not that of us going to school with Black Americans and Black Americans loving us and respecting us and treating us like we're their brothers. That's not our experience. A lot of Caribbean blacks, especially like with Haitian and Jamaican blacks, we would tell you that a lot of the Black Americans used to bully us. And a lot of us had to click up amongst each other to protect ourselves from Black Americans, like I said, bullying us. If you go look up the history of Haitians with the Zopounds, a lot of Haitians created the Zopound movement to protect themselves from Black Americans in Florida bullying them. All right. At one point in time, I think around the 1980s, there was like an HIV/AIDS epidemic, and the Haitians, they were accused of causing that epidemic, and they were treated very badly by Black Americans. I asked a lot of the Haitians from Florida how that time went, right? My experiences with me, coming from a Jamaican parentage household, I had to drop a lot of my accent. I had to hide a lot of my culture, because a lot of the Black Americans, they would tease you and pick on you about your culture and would tell you that you're not really black. You're Jamaican, so you're not really black. Or they would pick on you for eating beef patties. They would call you Jamaican beef patty and shit. They would pick on you for your accent, tell you how to speak proper English. You'll even hear, now I'm 32 years old. So this is me from the 90s, growing up, being born in the early 90s, 1992, being raised in the 90s, growing up in the 2000s, right? This is before ever FBA and now mind you, the 90s going into the 2000s, which is a time when I can speak for, from the 90s to the 2000s to the mid 2000s to the 2010s, pro-Blackism was big. Now, this is where Black Americans and Caribbean blacks, we were supposed to be on one link, one pro-Black link, this and the third. But Caribbean blacks are we experience a lot of discrimination from Black Americans. And don't get it twisted. I got flamed for Jamaican blacks or Caribbean blacks, right? And I'm gonna get into that a bit later. But Black Americans were very discriminatory, and very prejudiced against Caribbean blacks. Very racist against us. Said a lot of racist things. I remember I'm going to Farmbria, and this is like back in the 2015, 2014 timeline. I'm in the grocery store, and a lot of the grocery stores, especially around Queens and Brooklyn, but this grocery store was in Queens. It's a lot of Caribbeans in there, mixed with a lot of Black Americans and whatsoever, right? And I'm in a store, and one of the security guards, he's like a private undercover cop or whatever. And you know how the Koreans that hire like they hire like black security guards to like kind of help them secure, their grocery stores or whatever, right? So, he walks up to me, and we're having a conversation, and he's having a conversation because I don't dress or look like the Jamaican. I dress like a New Yorker, like a Black American New Yorker, right? But he's talking to me, and he's saying how Jamaicans don't smell like Caribbean blacks, or Jamaicans, they body odor, or they need to speak proper English. Like, he's having this conversation with me. This is a Black American making prejudicial comments about Caribbean blacks. I remember growing up in school. This is from pre-K, kindergarten, grade school, junior high, right? I remember having to fight a lot of Black Americans because they used to make fun of Caribbeans for our accent and mock us for it and tease us about that, right? And I remember a lot of us Caribbean blacks, Jamaicans, Trinidadians, have to click up amongst each other to protect ourselves from being bullied by what you call the Black Americans, right? And Black Americans always had a hatred for Jamaican niggas, right? Now, I'm not saying that Jamaican niggas never said anything prejudicial about Caribbean blacks, and I think one of the things that Caribbean blacks are angry or upset about with Jamaicans is that when we come in, we say that they're lazy and they don't want to work. Well, the thing is, what Black Americans don't understand is that Jamaicans, they have a conservative upbringing. So a lot of Jamaicans in Jamaica or Trinidad, they're raised in a traditional Christian conservative household, whether they're from the ghetto or they're from middle class or they're from upper class. Most Jamaicans are raised in a disciplinary traditional household. So if they have a conservative mindset and they're coming into America and most of the Black culture and Black community are liberal and Democrat, they're going to look at you and say, yo, y'all lazy, you're not working. And in Jamaica, it's a eat what you kill type of world. In Jamaica, you have to grind because they're in poverty. So there's no such thing as you being lazy. If you're lazy, you're not going to eat the next day. If you're in Jamaica and you don't get off your ass, especially during the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s, you have to get off your ass and go grind. Because if you're a Jamaican, especially if you was a male, and you had children to support, you had a wife to support, you had to get off your ass and go work. Nothing in Jamaica was given to you. You have to fight for it. So now if you're coming to America and watching Black Americans being given free stuff, welfare programs, and have a lot of opportunities given to them, and they're not taking advantage of it, and they're being lazy about it, and at the same time, a lot of Black Americans would hate on Jamaicans and say, well, these Jamaicans or these immigrants are coming here and taking all of our jobs. See the comments that you see on Twitter and YouTube where FBA are saying that these Jamaican immigrants are coming here and they're being problems in our community. They had been saying that. Those comments have been said. Those comments are not new. Little racist remarks or prejudiced remarks you hear coming from FBA today. If we had social media in the 80s and the 90s, well, I only can speak for the 90s and the 2000s. If you had social media then, you would have heard Black Americans say a lot of disparaging shit or remarks against Black American, against Jamaican blacks. And Black Americans didn't accept Africans either. They used to call Africans African booty scratcher. That was a joke against Africans, right? So, and I'm not defending Caribbean blacks. I'm not saying Caribbean blacks are this holy people, because I got flame for my people too. There's a lot of shit that Caribbean blacks do that piss me off and get on my fucking nerves. See what I'm saying? And I'm gonna get into that a bit later. But this lie that the FBAs are telling, that a lot of the lies, I'm going to address them today on this show, on this my show today on the live, that they're telling that you know, Jamaicans are being prejudiced towards them, and they don't accept the Jamaicans don't accept Black Americans into their culture, and we were so loving and all, and we accepted them into their culture, and we embraced them. That's a fucking lie. Big lie. They may say that, and the reason why the FBI are saying that now is because they don't want to be looked at as they're being racist towards other groups from the diaspora, or they're being prejudiced towards other groups of the diaspora. But they've always been tribal. They always gatekeep things from Caribbean blacks. And today I'm going to debunk the first lie, right? One of the first lies, and I've heard this watching Tommy Sotomayor on Rumble, right? Click the like, click the share, subscribe, and share me out, bro. Help me build my channel. Enjoy the content and these things. All right, so let's go to the immigration laws, right? Because the FBI is saying that their Civil Rights Act in the 1965, which that Civil Rights Act was made to help Black Americans in America. But what the FBI is saying is that, you know, they, because of that act, it was to help Caribbean blacks be able to come to America and help them with their civil rights struggle. But I have heard Black Americans growing up in America say to me and other Caribbean blacks, and say to other Caribbean blacks, that the civil rights movement was not for Caribbean blacks, that is for Black Americans. This is coming out from ADOS, and this is coming out from a lot of the African American groups that are here, right? Which I have no issue with that. I have no issue with Black Americans saying the things that we created here in Black America is to benefit Black Americans, right? But what I've heard in real life from Black Americans saying that a lot of the civil rights movements was not meant for Black Americans. It was meant for, it was not meant for Caribbean blacks. It's really meant for Black Americans, right? Now they're saying that, or Tariq Nasheed is saying that the FBA created the civil rights movement to help Caribbean blacks come to America to help their fight with the civil rights. Which argument is it? Is it that you created the civil rights movement to only include Black Americans, or is it that you created the civil rights movement and made it so that a lot of the Black immigrants could come to America and help you in your fight for civil rights? Those two things cannot be true. Those contradict each other. And I wish a lot of you Caribbeans would stop being afraid of Black Americans and trying to kiss their ass to have peace, and come out and talk your shit and really tell the story of what went down in the 80s and the 90s and the 60s. Right? So the first law, right? They're talking about, so I'm going to put this here. This is going to go into my, where is it? Live stream. Put this here into my live stream right here. All right. If you're going to say something to my chat is open to people. If you're going to say something, please fucking respect me. Thank you. All right, so here we go. I posted this link into the chat. Okay, Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, Civil Rights Movement era, right? In 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed into law the Immigration and Nationality Act, which replaced the quota immigration system that had been in existence since the 1920s, with a preference system based on labor skills needed by the United States and those who had pre-existing family tie in this country. This I don't know how you say that. Legion will explore past U.S. immigration laws that affected Asian immigrants and naturalization. How the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 came about because of the Civil Rights Movement, and how this 1965 Act changed the demographics of the country over the next 20 years and beyond. Now, that right there is saying, the Civil Rights Movement of the 1965, and with the Asian American and Immigration and Naturalization, and how Immigration and Nationality Act of the 1965 came about because of Civil Rights Movement. So that's saying the Civil Rights Movement kind of helped that stuff, right? Objectives. Learn there was a struggle for civil rights led by African Americans that led to change the immigration law in the U.S., from quota system to family reunification system. Students will learn about the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, how it impacted Asian Americans and transformed the makeup of America. All right. Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 essay. Oh, so this is an essay. This is an essay. Shit. All right, give me one moment. My doorbell rang. I'll be right back. Be right back. Okay. I am back. Okay, so what I'm reading is an actual essay, right? Let's look into it. So I'm going to read the essay, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm corrected, I'm corrected, right? So this is an essay. This is Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 essay from the early 1800s to the 1965. Asian immigrant rights to immigration and citizenships. Let me slow down. Whew. I have to run. From the early 1800s to 1965, Asian American rights to immigration and citizenship in the United States were supplemented by a series of Immigration 2, Chinese Exclusion Act, which explicitly banned Chinese immigrants from entering the country and prevented current Chinese residents from becoming citizens. Later, it was expanded to exclude all Asians and became the first law in the United States to limit immigration based exclusively on ethnicity. Damn. So that law was these laws were to ban Asians from this. That's crazy. The Emergency Quota Act 1921 implemented a quota system based on nationality that overwhelmingly favored immigrants from Western Europe and barred immigrants from the vast majority of Asia and Africa. The annual quota from Europe was 356,081 compared to the 1,261 from Asia and the 122 from Africa. When China became a key ally of the United States against Japan, Japan used the Chinese Exclusion Act as a propaganda for China to break with the United States. The United States can no longer justify the exclusion. In 1943, Congress repealed all exclusion acts and provided current Asian residents to a route to seek naturalization. But the stringent quota system and anti-immigration sentiment remained firmly unchanged. So, That line right there, the only reason why it changed was because of the propaganda from Japan to get Chinese to break away from the United States. Because remember, this was during World War One or two, I think, World War Two, and Japan and America, they were going at it, right? And they had put a lot of the Japanese in internment camps, right? And the Chinese, I think, they were grouped up with the United States to go against Japan. So it's like you cannot now exclude or stop Chinese if you want them to be your ally from coming into the country, right? So let's go into this. The civil rights movement in the 1960s, spearheaded by Dr. Martin Luther King, and long-fought efforts of African Americans led to the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, outlawing discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, and sex, or national origin. Subsequently, immigration laws based on national origin came under serious review. The quota system regarded immigrants from certain nations to be less desirable. The passage of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, the Hart-Celler Act, completely removed the quota system and instead opted for a system that relied on preference for immigrants who were highly skilled in fields that the Department of Labor deemed understaffed or had existing family relationships within the United States. Legislators at the time believed that the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 was symbolic rather than consequential. Upon signing it, President Lyndon B. Johnson remarked, "This bill that we will sign today is not a revolutionary bill. It does not affect the lives of millions. It will not reshape the structure of our daily lives or really add importantly to either our wealth or power." Though the bill was signed under the guise of progressivism, many legislators, including Senator Harum Fong of Hawaii, still had to placate xenophobic anxieties about Asian immigrants and that those arriving would still remain majority European. That, however, was not the case, as the Family Unification Clause led to a mass influx of Asian immigrants. 10 years after signing the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, the population of Asian immigrants doubled. And by the 21st century, 80% of immigrants to the United States came from Asia or Latin America, effectively transforming the demographic of American society. Now, although the Civil Rights Act that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Helped to change the immigration laws, it helped to have immigrants come over here indirectly, right? It wasn't directly or specifically able to help immigrants. It just helped them indirectly. See what I'm saying? And because of the basis of race, color, religion, outlawing the discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, and sex or national origin, indirectly, it helped allow the change the immigration laws, but it wasn't directly meant for immigrants. It was directly meant for Black Americans of color, not immigrants of color. It just indirectly helped them, right? But this is an essay, and shout out to the person with this essay, right? Let's go to some other things. Because what I've heard in real life, a lot of what you heard Black Americans real life in the past is that the civil rights movement was not meant for was not meant for Caribbean Blacks. It was meant specifically for Black Americans. But according to that essay, right, it indirectly helped Asian Americans and it indirectly helped immigrants from African countries on the basis that you cannot discriminate against somebody because of their national origin or their sex or their gender, right? But if you read that passage, you wonder how the civil rights movement got hijacked by LGBT and a lot of other leftist groups, right? But we go into that at another time. But still, that doesn't mean that just because you made a civil rights law doesn't mean that you made it specifically to help Black immigrants come here, because that also helped Asian immigrants come here. It helped them indirectly come over here, not directly. You didn't make that civil rights movement thinking about other immigrants coming here. You made that civil rights movement specifically about Black Americans. And I've heard Black Americans say this outside of YouTube before FBA even came to be, right? Because I was hearing these conversations in like the 2000s, 2010s. All right, so this is prevalence and correlates of everyday discrimination among Black Caribbeans in the United States, the impact of nativity and country of origin. So I'm gonna post this into my live stream chat. Post this there. All right. Go back here. Black Caribbeans in the United States have been the victims of major discrimination, unfairly fired, denied a promotion, denied housing. What is not known is the degree of which they also experience more routine forms of everyday discrimination, such as receiving poor restaurant service, being perceived as dishonest, and being followed in stores. This paper investigates the distribution and correlates of everyday discrimination among a national sample of Black Caribbeans in the United States. This analysis used the Black Caribbean subsample of the National Survey of American Life. Demographic and immigration status correlates of 10 items from the everyday discrimination scale were investigated. Being treated with less courtesy, treated with less respect, receiving poor restaurant service, being perceived as not smart, being perceived as dishonest, being perceived as not as good as others, and being feared, insulted, harassed, or followed in stores. Roughly 1 out of 10 Black Caribbeans reported that on a weekly basis they were treated with less courtesy, and other people acted as if they were better than them, were afraid of them, and as if they were not smart. Everyday discrimination were more frequent for Black Caribbeans who were male, never married, divorced, or separated, or higher incomes, and were second or third generation immigrants. Black Caribbeans attributed the majority of the discrimination they experienced to their race. To our knowledge, this is the first study providing an in-depth investigation of everyday discrimination among Black Caribbean population. It provides the frequency, types, and correlates to everyday discrimination reported by Black Caribbeans in the United States. Understanding the frequency and the types of discrimination is important because it documented negative impacts of everyday discrimination on physical and mental health. Right? Now, this is an article. When did this take place? Let me look for the date. This was published in 2017, right? In July. Okay. This is back in 2017. Immigrants and minority groups continue to face high levels of major discrimination in the United States, including discrimination in the workforce. I remember my mom, because she used to work in St. Vincent Hospital, she used to talk about what she experienced on that job with our coworkers, amongst both Black Americans and white people. You know what I'm saying? I heard a lot of my aunts, well, except for my auntie V. Auntie V, she had a different experience, but my mom, she would talk about that stuff, right? United States include discrimination in the United States, including discrimination in the workforce, being unfairly fired. My father, he just retired. He worked at New York Presbyterian for a very long time. My mother, she used to work at St. Vincent Hospital, then she used to work at Kingsbrook Hospital in Brooklyn, right? What is known is the degree to which they are also the victims of more routine forms of everyday discrimination, which is defined as consistent but less overt forms of intolerance. Examples of everyday discrimination include receiving poor restaurant. Oh, I already read that. In the last 10 years, this is like, oh shit. This is coming from African Americans. In the last 10 years, perceived everyday discrimination has received a considerable amount of attention in the mental and physical health literature. For instance, among African Americans, perceived discrimination has a strong negative impact on a variety of indicators of physical and mental health, including mortality, elevated blood pressure, early stage of oh shit, I don't know how the hell you say that word. I'm gonna put this word in the chat. Yeah, I can go learn how to pronounce this word yourself. This is the word of the day. I'm gonna pin it. The word of the day. Pin the message, whatever this word is. That's the word of the day. go here. Scholars suggest that discrimination should be considered more seriously, given its high prevalence. So this is saying that discrimination could cause mental health issues and mortality and high blood pressure, which a lot of Caribbean niggas have. And it could also be coming from the high salt diet that a lot of Caribbean niggas be eating. Anyway. Scholars suggest that discrimination should be considered more seriously given its high prevalence and wide distribution among persons of disadvantage. So imagine you're a Jamaican, you come from a high-stress, impoverished country. They come to America for a better life, and you run into more stress and problems. That's crazy. Amongst your own people. So mind you this, Caribbean blacks, primarily Jamaican blacks, you come from a devil's playground of a country. To come to America thinking that you're going to find brotherhood amongst other black people that look like you, just to face discrimination from both white people and black Americans. That's crazy. All right. Now, I might be sounding divisive, but I don't give a damn because the FBA, yeah, have been divisive. And like I said, I don't have a problem with black Americans saying we want to have our own nationality, we want to have our own this and our own that. I don't mind any of that. But stop telling this damn lie that you was accepting and you weren't being, you want to pretend that, you wasn't discriminating against the Caribbean blacks of the diaspora. Like you wasn't being prejudiced amongst us. Stop telling that lie. You never accepted us into your culture. You had as much hate for us as you did for white people. Right? All right, so y'all can read that. See, now what this is not saying, oh shit. So this is talking about immigrants, discrimination against them. Right? So y'all can go read that article. But that article was just speaking how black Americans has faced discrimination in this country in general. It's not saying how, it's not telling you that African Americans played a big part in that discrimination against Caribbean blacks. But I'm gonna read another article from a Pacific immigrant. This is a Caribbean immigrant. Read here. Now, in regards to the immigration laws, right? That really mostly affected the Asians, and white people were mainly trying to get a lot of the Eastern European over here, like the Irish, the Italians. People remembers when Ellis Island, when a lot of those Irish and Russian and Italian immigrants came into the country, right? So that was really to benefit Europeans, right? And then now when you have the Civil Rights Act coming in now in 1965, that says that you can't discriminate against national origin, right? That can indirectly help immigrants come here, but not directly. Just because it helped them indirectly doesn't mean that that was the intention, right? But black Americans like to say that, now they're saying that that this is what helped a lot of black immigrants to come here. But I've heard in real life, like I said earlier, black Americans say that this is not really meant for Caribbean blacks, that the civil rights movement was meant for black Americans. I've heard Adolf say that, right? So this is from a Caribbean black, and this was done on September 21st, 2023. And this is from a Caribbean black by the name of Winsome Pendergrass. Not a lot of Caribbean, that's another lot that black Americans like to say that Jamaican blacks are not really black because we never went through the same slave oppression. Winsome Pendergrass is a European slave master's name. And a lot of what the slave masters of Jamaica did is that they gave a lot of the Jamaican slaves European names like Winsome Pendergrass and Hamilton Brown or some kind of Irish name. Because a lot of the Irish and Jewish small hat people, they own slaves in Jamaica. See what I'm saying? And her name is Winsome Pendergrass. And I posted this in the chat. Right? Let's see this. Read this. She marvels at the way enslaved Africans, her ancestors, and the forebears of most Black Americans sustained themselves by transforming the worst cuts of meat into favorable flavors. So she's talking about going to like a flea market. You know those flea markets in Brooklyn, right? Right. Black people today in Jamaica for the U.S. carry inside them its capacity for prevalence over adversity and scarcity, she says. Yet it feels to her as though some Black Americans look down on Black newcomers and resent them from taking opportunities they fought long and hard to get. Right? That was one of the common things that Black Americans would say about Caribbean Blacks from a long time, that a lot of the Caribbean Blacks would come there and go after opportunities. And the Black Americans would hate a lot of the Caribbean Blacks for taking a lot of jobs. Black Americans used to treat Jamaican Blacks like Mexicans. You know how American overall used to talk shit about the Mexicans and how the Mexicans would come here and they would take away a lot of the jobs that the illegal immigrants are going to come here and take a lot of Black jobs away. Well, Black Americans used to say that about Caribbean Blacks, right? And the reason being is that because you have a lot of Black men that had children back in Jamaica. So when they had the opportunity to come to America, you would have Jamaican niggas working 3-4 jobs when they first come here. My father had 2 jobs. My mother was working as a when she first came here as a what's one of those home help? Yeah, the home what you call them? Those home help aides. My mom used to work that. Then she worked in Kingsbrook Hospital. Then she worked in St. Vincent. And I watched my mother grind. I watched my father grind. A lot of my family, my aunts, my uncles, I've watched them work and grind. So it's not that Caribbean Blacks are coming here and just taking your jobs from you on purpose. They just come here and they see the opportunities and they're hungry for the food, so they go get it. In Jamaica, they have to hustle to survive. That's how they're trained. In Jamaica, they're trained to go hustle to get it. They can't afford to be lazy in Jamaica. And they come from a conservative Christian upbringing, more traditional, right? So, they have that conservative mindset already by the time they're coming into America, right? And Winsome Pendergrass is saying, and she says, quote, the people who tell me to go back to my country the most is Black people, not white people, Pendergrass says with a sigh. So this is a Jamaican immigrant saying this, and I posted this in the chat. So y'all can go read it for yourself. A Jamaican is saying, from her perspective, that that the people who tell me to go back to my country the most is Black people, not white people. Right? And I wish a lot of you Jamaican immigrants that was here, second and first generation, from the 60s until now, who are like in your 50s, you're from the Gen X and you're from the Bloomer and you're from the earlier millennials. I wish y'all would get on YouTube and stop being afraid of Black Americans and just talk your mind and talk about your experience of them discriminating against you. Why is it that I have to come defend it? Right? Her experience reflects a widespread reality amongst Black immigrants whose ranks have swelled from just, oh shit. Listen to this. Winsome Pendergrass, her experience reflects a widespread reality among Black immigrants whose ranks have soared from just over 2 million in 2000 to nearly 5 million today, or about 1/10 of the nation's Black population. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, these newcomers have settled mostly in the East Coast cities such as New York, Newark, Washington, and Miami, expected to double the number by 2060. Pendergrass, 64, who migrated to the U.S. 2 decades ago, became a naturalized citizen in 2011. It's part of the surge. She participated in a nationwide survey of immigrants conducted by the Times in partnership with KFF, formerly known as Kaiser Family Foundation, that provides unprecedented insight into the 1 in 6 American adults who are born in other countries, right? Those from Africa Caribbean experience a double burden of discrimination in the U.S. Both immigrants and black residents in the country with a long history of racism, according to the first of its kind survey. Black immigrants, for example, are more likely to report experience workplace discrimination and unfair treatment by the police. While a third of immigrants overall say they've been told to go back where they came from, that figure jumps nearly half for black immigrants, right? Pendergrass says those words are especially aggravating when they're spoken by citizens from her own race. She's talking about black Americans that look like her. She quoted saying, "There's this great divide. Oh, you're from the islands," Pendergrass says. During 2 separate focus groups this summer with immigrants from the Caribbean and sub-Saharan Africa, several said they have been dismayed to find that black Americans treat them more harshly. As a result, they avoid association with that community. I'm going to read that part again. During 2 separate focus groups this summer with immigrants from the Caribbean and sub-Saharan Africa, several said they too have been dismayed to find that black Americans treat them more harshly. As a result, they avoid associating with that community. So black Americans, right? I've heard you guys admit this on YouTube saying that, well, maybe it's because we used to bully them and we never used to accept them in our culture. Maybe that's why they don't want to be a part of our culture. Well, duh, motherfucker. If an African is coming here and a Caribbean immigrant is coming here, as this is saying during 2 separate focus groups this summer with immigrants from the Caribbean and sub-Saharan Africa, several said they too have been dismayed to find that black Americans treat them more harshly. As a result, they avoid associating with that community. So if you're treating the Africans, blacks, and Caribbean blacks more harshly, discriminating against them more harshly than white people, why would they want to associate with you? If you're being loud and being disrespectful towards Jamaican, and Jamaicans don't take disrespect like that. We will let you know that. Why would they associate with you? And then when we call you lazy and call you names back, you want to play the victim card and say, oh, look, see, the Jamaican niggas don't like us. But you was fucking with them first. That makes sense? So you can fuck with me, discriminate against me, be prejudiced against me, but when I do it back, it's like I'm anti-FBA, but when you were doing it to Jamaican, it's not you being anti-Caribbean black. Come on. Pendergrass takes special offense to the hostile attitude because when she's not working as a private nursing assistant for seniors, she's often demonstrates and lobbies public officials for affordable housing and tenants' rights in largely low-income black and brown neighborhoods. See, what black Americans are not telling you is that you have a lot of Caribbean immigrants here in America helping with civil rights, helping to fight for black people, black Americans, because a lot of Caribbean immigrants, you got to remember, Bob Marley and the Rastafarian movement, all of them came up under Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey movement influenced the Malcolm X's and the Minister Farrakhan's and the Elijah Muhammad's and the Nomadru Ali's. So a lot of those pro-black influences influenced a lot of the Rastafarian movement and a lot of the Afro-Caribbeans in Jamaica and Trinidad and Haiti. So a lot of Caribbean blacks, they came up under the influence of a Marcus Garvey and a Malcolm X and a Minister Farrakhan and a Martin Luther King. So when they come into America, they see themselves as fighting the same civil rights fights as black Americans are. But you know what it is? When Caribbean blacks come to America, we have to be respectful towards black Americans. But when black Americans go to Jamaica, time and time again, they don't show respect for Jamaican culture when they go over there. They mock it, they make fun of it. If you go watch that movie Luke Cage, right? Go watch Luke Cage season 2 when they talked about Bushmaster. Bushmaster was played by a black American, by the way. So a lot of you FBAs complaining about how these Caribbean blacks and these African blacks are coming over here and like Angry Man says, Angry Man, I want the smoke, bro. Because I heard you say this. You talking about, oh man, these African blacks and these Caribbean blacks, they're coming over here and they're replacing our damn characters. But you've had black Americans play Caribbean characters. and Caribbean niggas did not complain about it. Well, Caribbean niggas did complain about Luke Cage, right? Because the Caribbean niggas, they complain about how Bushmaster uncle was like some Nigerian. I had an issue with that too, because a lot of the niggas that were playing Jamaicans in Luke Cage season 2, they weren't Jamaicans. A lot of them were like Africans from Canada and shit. And I'm gonna do a review on that Luke Cage series, right? But if you could watch Luke Cage season 2 and listen to a lot of the remarks and the little back and forth between Caribbean blacks and Black Americans in Luke Cage Part 2, I would tell you. You even had Somalian Africans playing Jamaican niggas on Luke Cage season 2. And I could tell. Like I could tell Joyce Reed is Nigerian. Right? And by the way, Jamaican blacks, we don't see ourselves as African like that. We see ourselves as more Caribbean, more Jamaican. Like we identify with our Jamaican nationality over our African, right? Because it's a cultural thing. So a lot of times, a lot of the pro-black organizations like the Rastafarian community in Jamaica, they get mad at the Jamaican population because we don't see ourselves as like an African black. We see ourselves as like a Jamaican black, right? But anyway. And Winston Pendergrass, she said, I'm fighting for all black people, which a lot of Caribbean blacks, when they come here, that's what they do, because they're under the influence of a lot of the civil rights movements, right? And I'm going to go into how a lot of the civil rights movements that were funded by FBA were Marxist and communist. We're going to go into that, right? She flashes back to an incident that happened on a crowded city bus when President Trump was in office. So don't blame that shit on President Trump. Come on, man. A black man refused to make space for her, and she tried to sit, and the two exchanged words. A black woman who was listening chimed in. I guess she picked up, and this is a quote. This is what Pendergrass said the black woman said, right? I guess she picked up on my accent, Pendergrass says. The next thing she said was, I can't wait till Trump runs them back home. Let them go back to their country. I've heard black Americans say that a lot. Black Americans say that a lot towards Caribbean blacks. Does that sound like Caribbean blacks accept this in their culture? Whew. So right here, Winsome Pendergrass, she sees herself as the same black person as black Americans, right? She sees herself as being part of black American culture. And if you read the article, she does a lot of civil rights activism work here in Jamaica and fight on the rights of black people, which a lot of black immigrants do. You know what the problem is? Black American culture has a unspoken Negro contract that you cannot hold black Americans accountable for when they're fucking up. So if you're Caribbean black and you're telling black Americans, hey, you need to step your game up, you need to stop gangbanging, you need to stop being 304, that's going to be considered of you being off code and you're not being part of black culture. So because a lot of Jamaicans saying, fuck that, we're going to break away from that unspoken Negro contract, a lot of black Americans are like saying, well, they're not really part of us. That's what it really is. That's why they're attacking Jamaicans specifically, right? Because a Jamaican would get up there and say, well, I'm Jamaican American. I'm not black, right? And the reason why a lot of Jamaican Americans are saying I'm not black is because in Jamaica or in the Caribbean, it operates off of a caste system. So like in Jamaica, right? You know how in Black America, they have this colorist thing going on with dark skin versus light skin? Well, in Jamaica, light-skinned niggas are on top of the food chain, the caste system hierarchy. So the lighter you are in Jamaica, the better treatment you get. So like say you're a dark-skinned nigga like Usain Bolt, and you could be like Usain Bolt and make more money than Sean Paul. They're going to treat Sean Paul better than Usain Bolt. As a matter of fact, in dancehall reggae, it said that that's why Sean Paul is the top nigga in dancehall, because of his complexion. Because in dancehall reggae, right, it goes, not only you have to be good, how dancehall culture goes, right? Let me explain it properly. Dancehall culture, you have to be clashing. When we call dancehall, when two DJs clash or two artists clash, it's like a battle DJ type thing, like a versus, like Bounty Killer versus Merciless or Bounty Killer versus Beanie Man. Well, Shaggy and Sean Paul, they didn't have to go through that process to become the top Grammy nigga in dancehall. As a matter of fact, Movado, who's dark skinned, he came in second place to Sean Paul, who's light skinned. And they're saying that the lightest skin in Jamaica, because of that caste system, right? The light skin is better treated in Jamaica as a class, right? And it's true, because there's been stories where it said that if you're a Chinese Jamaican and you go to a hospital, the Chinese Jamaicans are going to be treated better than the Afro dark-skinned Jamaicans. That's like my complexion and darker. Or if you're a lighter-skinned Jamaican in Jamaica, you're going to be treated more. So that's like when you hear a lot of Jamaicans say, well, I prefer to get a pretty browning. Because when a Jamaican gets a pretty browning, it's like a status thing. It's like you made it. Like you got a Benz, you got a big car, you got a pretty light-skinned chick. So now I know why my mother gets a lot of attention, because my mother's light-skinned. She's like an octoroon type of chick and shit. Right? So my mother's light-skinned, and I could never understand why a lot of dark-skinned niggas at the time was being, as you said in Jamaica, a gal clone. I could never understand it. Now I understand why. Right? But so that's why a lot of Caribbean blacks don't call themselves black. They put their nationality first as their identity before they put their race first as their identity, right? Because in Jamaica, because they were under the British Crown at one point, black, if you allowed them to call you black, it took away your national privileges and it took away your human rights in Jamaica. So that's why you'll hear a lot of Jamaicans like myself say, I'm Jamaican American. Now, because I'm in black culture, I'll say that. I'm a Jamaican black, right? But the reason why a lot of Jamaicans say I'm Jamaican American is to proclaim their nationality, because you get human rights when you proclaim a nationality. Black is a color. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so I'm going to go into now. I heard Black Americans say on Tommy Sotomayor's panel on Rumble say that Jamaican blacks during the 80s and the 90s were responsible for the crime rate uptick and the drugs that were coming into the country. I don't want to debunk that fucking lie right now. Because what Black Americans are trying to do now is blame why the crime rate amongst Black Americans were high. And they're trying to blame it on Caribbean blacks. So let's debunk that bullshit lie right now. All right? Let's look up Frank Lucas. How many wasn't Snowfall based on a FBA drug dealer by the name of Freeway Ricky Ross, right? So Freeway Ricky Ross, and according to the Snowfall show, the CIA was funneling drugs into the community and using Black American men to sell drugs and run drugs to help them fight the Contra wars, right? So there were Black American dope dealers dealing drugs in Black community because the CIA was using them to do so long before Caribbean blacks ever got there. So how the fuck can you blame Jamaican blacks for the crime rate amongst Black Americans, right? So let's go. Black American drug kingpin. I wish I could, the best I could do is put the things in the chat. Here we go. Some prominent Black American kingpins include Frank Lucas, Nicky Barnes, Frank Matthews, also known as Black Caesar, Terry and Demetrius Filonori, Black Mafia family, the BMF, and Freeway Ricky Ross. all of whom gained notoriety for their large-scale drug trafficking operations in the United States, often operating within predominantly African-American communities. All right, let's look up Frank Lucas, right? Now, from the movie American Gangster, Frank Lucas was getting his drugs from Vietnam, right? Imported drugs from Vietnam. Oh, here it is. This is New York Times. This is the FBA, right? As the Vietnam, I'm gonna post this article in the chat. Post this article in the chat. Chat. All right, so these articles are posted in the chat, so y'all can go look at them later. Where was I again? Oh, here we go. As Vietnam War raged in the late 1960s and early 70s, a potent heroin called Blue Magic flooded into Harlem and New York from a mysterious Southeast Asian connection. It destroyed lives, and it turned a black gangster named Frank Lucas into one of America's notorious drug kingpins. His life of crime, rising from poverty to riches in an enterprise that succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. Now, we know that a lot of the Italian gangsters, a lot of the Italian mobsters and the Irish mobsters and the Jewish mobsters, they were involved in the dope game too. Don't get it twisted. Like, we try to blame Black Americans or Caribbean blacks for the dope game, but European men like the Irish, like the Italians, like the Jewish, they were in the game too. They created the game of dope dealing. So don't let that Godfather movie to fool you that, oh, we only going to sell drugs to the niggas because they're animals. That's bullshit. The Italians were selling drugs to each other and other white people. The Irish was involved, right? So it wasn't just Frank Lucas. If anything, Frank Lucas just made like pennies compared to what other European mafias was making off the dope game. So don't get it twisted, especially what America was making, right? According to the movie Snowfall. Right? Blue Magic flooded into Harlem and New York from a mysterious Southeast Asian connection. It destroyed lives, and it turned a black gangster named Frank Lucas into one of America's most notorious drug kingpins. His life of crime, rising from poverty to riches in an enterprise that succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, was portrayed in 2007 in Ridley Scott's film American Gangster with Denzel Washington. The movie was a Hollywood composite of a fact and fiction, depicting Mr. Lucas as daring, imaginative criminal who set up the Asian connection, smuggled heroin in the coffins of service personnel killed in action, and broke into the mafia's long denomination of narcotics. So I was saying the mafia had a domination of narcotics in the New York area, all claims made by Mr. Lucas that have been challenged by investigators and journalists. Even so, the story of Frank Lucas, who died on Thursday night in Cedar Grove, New Jersey at 88, is a larger-than-life tale of ambition, organization, and ruthless brutality. Now, hold on. By his own account, he ordered and committed murders, bribed personnel in Vietnam to set up a heroin connection, and paid corrupt police officers $200,000 a week. He hobnobbed with Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali, James Brown, and Diana Ross, and spent lavishly on cars, clothing, jewelry, and entertainment. At the peak of his empire, he claimed he was taking in $1 million a day and had $50 million stash in Cayman Island banks and $300 million in stockpiled heroin and on office buildings in Detroit and Cattle Ranch. Damn. Now, I'm going to segue and say something here. I'm going to defend Black Americans, right? Because despite the battle we're having right now, I still view you as my brother. So I'm going to pick up for Black Americans, and I'm going to pick up for Caribbean Blacks, because a lot of the Dons in Jamaica, they were involved with the dope game too. And a lot of the Caribbean Blacks that were involved in the dope game, along with the Black Americans that were involved in the dope game, they were involved in the dope game for a similar reason, to make money, right? Because we were doing what the Italians were doing. what the other European nationalities of men were doing. And oftentimes, what we'll do on YouTube, right, is we'll demonize black men for selling drugs. And when I'm talking about black men, I'm talking about black men during the Gen X era. We'll demonize black men for being involved in the dope game, not realizing that America was using black Americans and making money off of black Americans on the dope game to fund their war on drugs, right? And nobody had an issue with drugs coming into America because you had a lot of rich white people sniffing cocaine and doing heroin. A lot of the white Europeans, like I said earlier, like the Irish, the Italians, they were selling drugs and making money, way more money than black Americans, right? But we want to now sit back and blame it all on black Americans. You cannot do that, America. You cannot put a moral argument on black Americans and say, black Americans, because of some moral argument that you should have never dealt dope. When America never was moral. The Europeans never thought about morality. As in Godfather 2 said, we're going to sell these drugs to these niggas because they're animals. They have no soul. So was this European men thinking about having human morals when it came to selling drugs to blacks? No, they didn't. Did America have morals when they say, okay, we're going to use the black community to sell drugs to make money? No, they didn't. So if you want me to hold black men accountable for what they did in the past to survive, like every other group of men did, Italian men dealt dope, and Italian men, I will argue that a lot of New York City was built off of mafia drug money, a lot of criminal element money. Right? So if you want me to hold black Americans, men, for what they did in the past to survive during the Gen X era, then you have to hold everybody else accountable. You cannot put the sole blame all on black men for the dope game. Y'all got to stop that shit. Hold everybody else accountable. Don't just put a moral argument. That's what I hate. I'm tired of black men having to be moral in a environment where his enemies are savage and vicious towards him. But he got to be moral and he got to be motherfucking respectful of everybody else, but nobody can respect him and shit. And then when we respond to it, it's us calling us emotional. Insane. All right, so we're going to look at another FBA. Let's look up Frank Matthews. I don't think Frank Matthews is one of those people that actually escaped. All right. Frank Matthews, drug trafficker. I'm going to put his story in the... Did I put Frank Lucas? Yeah, I did. Frank Matthews remained a significant figure in the history of organized crime in America, particularly in the world of drug trafficking. His rise and fall illustrate because of the drug trade during the 1970s and the 1980s, a time when the United States was grappling with increased drug problems. Matthews was not just a kingpin; he was a pioneer in the heroin. He was a pioneer in the heroin. He was a pioneer in the heroin trade. Pioneer in the heroin trade. Let me say that again: pioneer in the heroin trade, establishing networks and routes that would later be used by numerous other drug traffickers. So, Black Americans, FBA, you want to say that it's because of Caribbean blacks why drugs got put into the country? When you have this FBA by the name of Frank Matthews, who was the pioneer of the heroin trade, that other drug traffickers was inspired by and used his means. Right? In this article, we explore the life of Frank Matthews, his operations, the law enforcement efforts to bring him down, and the legacy he left behind. The various phases of his life, we will uncover the motivation behind his criminal activities and the impact that he had on society. Damn. This article ain't... Why they don't put a lot of the Italian dudes that was involved in the dope game? Like this. This article aims to provide a comprehensive overview of Frank Matthews based on credible sources and verified information. All right. So I'm going to post this article up there. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'm going to post this in the chat. This is another FBA, and it said that he pioneered the dope game. All right. Let's look up another FBA. Let's look up Terry and Demetrius Floyd of the Black Mafia family. Let's look that guy up. These two are. Oh, this is Big Meech. Okay, Big Meech. He got released this year. Big Meech is the FBA, founder of the Black Mafia family, right? This is an FBA dude that was dealing dope. Right? So we're going to look at somebody else. Big Meech. Freeway Ricky Ross. Finally, the one who inspired Snowfall, Freeway Ricky Ross. He established a drug empire in Los Angeles, California in the early mid-1980s. He was sentenced to life in prison. Through the sentence, he was shortened on appeal and Ross was released. He established a drug empire in LA. The movie Snowfall is based upon Freeway Ricky Ross. So why do the FBA keep lying and saying that it's because of the black immigrants that came here and brought drugs here into the country and want to blame that on Shower Posse? Right? Let's look up Shower Posse. Shower Posse members. All right. And by the way, I have a rant against a lot of my own Jamaican people. Jamaican niggas. I got flame for y'all too. Don't get twisted. One of the things I dislike about you Jamaican niggas is that y'all like to be disrespectful and, as we say in Jamaica, style upon people, right? And you'll say something like, this is how Jamaican niggas are, right? Especially if they're born in Jamaica, right? They'll say something disrespectful to you. And they say it in a very slick, indirect way, like women. So most I own a yard man. On a style man using, man, you would disrespect our man like how women would disrespect people. And then if you respond to them being disrespectful, they're going to say you're emotional. Or if you broke fight with them and punch them in their face, they're going to say, oh, no, I dropped me a Mac. No, nigga. I can't stand that about my own people, Jamaican people. Y'all get disrespectful to somebody, and this is how they do it. They'll be talking to you. They throw like slick jabs at you, right? To try to test you to see if you're a punk or something. And then when you respond to their disrespect, they say, oh, no, you're being in your feelings. Or if you broke out with a fight with them. No, my man. In the world of men, when you're saying something disrespectful, you're supposed to get fucked up in the world of men. Get your ass whooped. And I can't stand it about Jamaican dudes. I honestly can't. And don't get it twisted, Jamaican niggas, right? Over there in Jamaica. If, for instance, Vibes Cartel, if what is being rumored or alleged about you is true, and you're over there causing problems in Jamaican society, then, you need to go back to prison. Because that's ridiculous. You wonder why the island of Jamaica is not producing any more engineers and doctors and lawyers? Because you gang niggas over there in Jamaica, whatever posse or clans or one order, y'all are killing off the black men before they grow and mature into be positive citizens for Jamaica. Because all Jamaica right now can produce is entertainers and runners and athletes. We need engineers and doctors over there. And if you niggas in the garrisons over there is terrorizing people, being domestic terrorists to your own people, you're being counterproductive. Clans, one order, whatever gang y'all come from over there. And the Vibes Cartel, you're in those streets over there, still causing mayhem behind the scenes. Then, I can't rate you as an artist. I can't rate you as a person. Because you're stopping the growth and development of Black men that you need to push Jamaican society forward. Right? And all them old ass politicians that's there. Right? And even though you can hold the politicians in Jamaica for their mishaps, but at the same time, at least the citizens in those garrisons that is there amongst you, they're not seeing the politicians every day. They might see the politicians when election time comes, but guess what they see every day? They see the clans every day. They see the one order every day. They see whatever gang they see every day. They see the gangs that are terrorizing them and causing them stress and heartache. And I kill out the woman them pick me. And I kill out the woman them too. And I rape the woman them too. I do not bad mind people. So I could sit here and talk about Black Americans, but at the same time, I could talk about you Jamaican niggas too. Because y'all are killing off each other, bro. And Jamaica and them gangs, y'all need to be purged. And I hope JDF and JCF purge y'all from that society because you're not helping. You're not helping Jamaica to grow. And then when you come to America now, in land of opportunity, you want to talk about Black Americans. And the only reason why I'm defending is because Black Americans pretend that they're not prejudiced against other Black people of the diaspora. But when you Jamaicans come here, you like to talk about Jamaicans that's born here, like me, right? They'll call me a Yankee too. Because I embrace New York culture, American culture. So Caribbean American immigrants or Caribbean Americans born here, we face three discriminations. We face it from white people, we face it from Black Americans, and we get it from our own people. I cannot stand that about Jamaican culture or Caribbean culture. And then in Jamaican culture, y'all love to prop up poverty and being broke and ghetto and ratchet bullshit. And say that that's the life to be living. No. You will never see me go to Jamaica and go into any garrison and ghetto and pick up no Jamaican chick from them garrison and ghetto. You Black American men are stupid for doing that. Because them whenever time I hear a Black American male say, I'm gonna go to Jamaica and get me a Jamaican chick. From where? Be careful. Anyway, let's go into Marcus Garvey, right? A lot of now, because Marcus Garvey, he's the forerunner to a lot of the pro-Black organizations here in America, because Marcus Garvey was talking about Black nationalism. So a lot of the ADOS and the FBA people, they're now nationalizing themselves because of what Marcus Garvey, the foundation that Marcus Garvey left down, being a Black nationalist, right? Now, how Black Americans discredit Marcus Garvey is because he did a meeting with some KKK members, right? And the reason why he did that meeting with the KKK members is because they had common interests, or they believe separations of the race. Now, the reason why Black Americans don't like Marcus Garvey is because at the time, W.E. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, right, they were for integration with white people. Marcus Garvey were for separation and segregation from white people. Because remember, Marcus Garvey was about Black pride and Black power. So let me read this right here. Garvey's philosophy was basically that came to be, so let me read this up here from the top. The most famous African-American civil rights leader of late 1900s, early 1900s were Booker T. Washington and W.E. Du Bois. I'm going to post this article in the chat. All right, so it's gonna be in the chat. Let me read this right here. The most famous African American civil rights leader of the late 1800s, early 1900s were Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois. But there was a third major leader during that era. By 1916, Marcus Garvey had become an influential civil rights and political figure. Garvey from Jamaica was actually recruited to come to the U.S. by Booker T. Washington. They shared the same general philosophy in terms of separate but equal. The main difference uh, was that BTW was willing to work with whites. Oh, that's Booker T. Washington was willing to work with whites. He needed funding for the Tuskegee Institute, while Garvey advocated total separation from the races. Garvey was the main founder of the UNI, the United National Improvement Association. In the U.S., membership in the UNI reached into the hundreds of thousands. Garvey's philosophy was basically what came to be known in the 1960s was black pride and black power, but he wanted those goals to be more achieved within African American communities. To illustrate how serious he was in pursuit of his philosophy, he started the Black Star Line, a passenger ship service for African Americans. Garvey claimed that the UNI was a religious organization, mostly to be able to attract as many members as possible. With that declaration, Garvey operated in the political, religious, and economic spheres of African American life. Marcus Garvey's main mistake, one that would be made decades later by Malcolm X in the Nation of Islam, was that he met with the Ku Klux Klan leaders. Damn. The UNI and the KKK actually had some common interests, since both advocated total racial segregation. By the earth now, the problem that Marcus Garvey caused there is because you had some blacks that wanted to integrate with whites. Because remember, civil rights was about integration. Marcus Garvey was about separation, and the KKK which is funny to me, is that a lot of black folks in the 1960s, they were Democrat, while the KKK was Democrat, and Marcus Garvey wanted to separate from them, but the American blacks wanted to be integrated with them. It's crazy. Since they both advocated total racial segregation by the early 1920s, Garvey had reached the conclusion, as had many others, that the KKK was the de facto secret government of the U.S. and confrontation was useless. Now, a lot of black folks don't understand how the world works. A lot of world leaders, they do meetings with each other. Like say for instance, Putin, Donald Trump, the Iran nigga over there, Kim Jong-un in Korea. Before they go to war with each other, they'll have a peace meeting to talk to each other to see if they can prevent a war from happening, or to learn about each other's weakness and strengths, right? You have to know who your enemy is. So a lot of black Americans don't understand that play. You have to do a meeting with your enemy to see what this is, to see what you're dealing with, right? A lot of the world leaders done that in the past. And according to Marcus Garvey, he recognized that KKK was a de facto secret government of the U.S. and the confrontation was useless. So he was testing the waters to test the temperature of what they were dealing with. When news of the meeting leaked, many UNI followers left the organization, but those that remained beyond steadfast in their loyalty to Garvey, among them were Earl and Louise Little, the parents of Malcolm X. Wow, so that's why Malcolm X was influenced by Marcus Garvey's teaching, right? And a lot of y'all saying that, FBA talking about delineation, but Malcolm X was influenced by, his mother, Louise Little, was from Grenada, and his father was an African American, FBA, and they both were influenced by Marcus Garvey's teaching, right? By the early 1920s, Marcus Garvey was a radar of the federal government and viewed as a threat. Garvey was arrested for mail fraud, a very serious charge back then, concerning his Black Star Line. After 2 years of exhausting appeals, he entered a federal prison in Atlanta. Despite his arrest, the UNI was still strong in the South and Midwest, Midwest Great Plains, but by 1927 had largely disintegrated in urban America. President Calvin Coolidge commuted Garvey's sentence in 1927 and ordered him deported to Jamaica. Garveyism flourished in the Caribbean and in the rural South, and the enclaves of African American populations outside urban areas after his deportation. One of the main reasons why the UNI lost followers in the urban areas was due to the rise of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. With its largely middle-class membership view, the UNI is an inferior organization, increasing the level of divisiveness within the African-American civil rights movement of early 20th century. Now, the divisiveness that they're talking about is that, like I said earlier, the NAACP was more for integration. UNI that Marcus Garvey created was more for segregation. And a lot of Tariq Nasheed says is that the Caribbean or Jamaica did not accept Marcus Garvey teaching, when right there it said that it flourished. Right? Now, the divisiveness that they talk about Marcus Garvey causing is like, you know how when Malcolm X and Mr. Farrakhan will come out and they'll give black people the flame and say, y'all need to step your game up and get to work and stop being lazy in your community, stop gangbanging, stop dealing dope, stop being menaces to your community. Malcolm X has said that and point that out. So a lot of things that you don't like Jamaicans saying about Black American culture today, Malcolm X said them in his time. Mr. Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad said that it was in their time. So because Marcus Garvey or the Jamaicans of today will not support you in your degradation or in your or wallow with you in the mud. I forgot the word. The word I want to say is not with me right now. But that's because we won't support you in your degradation of yourself, and we're holding you accountable for yourself. And I get it. Like I said, Caribbean blacks, we have to hold ourselves accountable too. But just because we want to wallow with you in the mud, and we're telling you need to step your game up, means that we hate you. Come on. The UNI in some ways was the precursor to the Nation of Islam, and the basic tenet of the NOI was total separation of the races. Garvey also provided a model for Malcolm X to follow. Malcolm X and Garvey before him wanted to positively impact the lives of African Americans in terms of religion, politics, and economics, because Marcus Garvey did preach economics, law, and government, right? The second KKK started to become the manifest by the early 1900s, and after the World War I. This new and improved hate group had millions of members. This clan, totally unrelated to the original KKK, which died out in the 1870s, had millions of members. The main reason why this hate group chose to call themselves the KKK was for the name brand recognition. The second KKK was xenophobic, and that they hated not only African Americans, but also Jews, Catholics, and recent immigrants. Nebraska's first branch of the KKK was established in 1921. 24 more KKK groups were started in Nebraska by the end of the year. Damn. So this is going into how, you know, how in the movie done by Spike Lee where they show Malcolm X's father, you know, getting deleted by the KKK. It's going into talk about that right here. But anyway, Black Americans like to say that how they discredit Marcus Garvey, because Marcus Garvey has had an impact on civil rights and Black American liberation and Black pride and the love for themselves. So how they discredit him is by saying, oh, well, he went and had a meeting with the KKK, right? And the reason for the friction with them is that, and then as I read, they created the NAACP because UNI was inferior to them. Now, this is by W.E. Du Bois, right? This is Black Americans hating on Marcus Garvey because he wanted to separate from whites, and W.E. Du Bois wanted to integrate with them, right? And because of that integration, Black Americans is how a lot of those woke intersexual groups was able to hijack your movement. This is why an Asian person could get an NAACP award from NAACP that was supposed to be for Black people. At least with the UNI, it was strictly for Black folks, strictly for Black people, African Americans, people of Blackness. Your NAACP encompass groups that don't like you. Civil rights movement, it fought for groups that did not like you and was able to be hijacked by leftist wokeist groups today that don't like you. UNI was strictly for Black folks. and it was going to help black folks get power in America and not need to be integrated with white people, which Malcolm X warned you about. Right? So what else I want to go into? The other lie that certain FBAs like to say, they like to say that because Uncle Luke was Caribbean and they brought a lot of the slackness into America, and because of Caribbean blacks is the reason why black Americans are influenced to be slack and influenced to be, like how today they talk about how black women like to truck on top of cars, and there's a lot of tethers in the hip hop industry that are causing problems or whatsoever. Well, I'm going to break that lie today. All right. So let's go into it. I'm going to play this song for y'all.
Right here on Black Girl Stuff. Now, when
this is by Lucille. This is by Lucille.
Why is everyone spiraling over YouTube banning ad blockers? Like, chill, guys. Just use Pi. It's a free Chrome extension that's actually made by.
Shut up. This is by.
I got nipples on my titties.
You hear it? This is by Lucia Bogan, Shave 'em Dry. This is from 1935. Now, this is somebody that apparently Cardi B. Oh, yo, and she has a line, you're not ready for it, but your grandkids are gonna love it. All right. Oh, I'm gonna look up these people. But listen to this. Y'all want to talk about Cardi B? Listen to this bitch. This is Lucia Bogan, Shave 'em Dry, 1935.
I got something between my legs. I'll make a dead man come out. Baby, I got nipples on my titties. Niggas the end of my thumb. I got something between my legs. I'll make a dead man come out.
Listen to the words she talks.
Baby, won't you shave 'em dry? No, no. Won't you burn me, baby? Burn me till I cry. Say I fucked all night and all the night ago, baby, and I feel just like I want to fuck some more.
Listen to the lyrics. This is Lucille Bogan, Shave 'em Dry. Listen to the lyrics.
And when you hear me holler, baby, won't you be changed down? I got nipples on my titties, deep in my thumb. Daddy said that's how we want, and you can make them come. Oh, daddy changed down. And I give you some, baby, where it'll make you cry. I'm gonna turn back my mattress. All my things I want to find me, daddy, tell the bell do ring. Oh, daddy, want you to take me down. Oh, great God, daddy, you keep saying, baby, won't you cry?
Some can say this is the first Little Kim or Cardi B. This is Dirty Blues.
Talking in the field, tell the talk back the level all day. Daddy, take me down. I'll fuck you, baby. Honey, I'll make you cry. I got your nut hang down like a damn bell sapper, and your dick stands up like a steeple.
Yo, shit. Ah, what's this?
Now your nuts hang down like a damn bell sapper, and your dick stands up like a seat. Your goddamn asshole fell on like a toadstool, and crab walks in like she. Ow!
Listen to what she said.
Baby, honey, I'll make you cry. Now your nuts hang down like a damn bell sapper, and your dick stands up like a seat.
Yo, I wish I could have been on that show with Tommy Sotomayor so I could play this song. I'm gonna. This is another thing here. Let me post this up here.
Your father knows about saving money. Everything I'm wearing, I've had since boot camp.
And I. Sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. I can't make my living around the town. 'Cause tricks ain't walking.
This is Lucille Bogan. They ain't walking no more. This is talking about prostitution and tricking from 1930s. Recorded in Chicago, Illinois, late March 1930. Originally issued on Brunswick 716378 RPM. This is on the radio.
Tricks ain't walking no more. I said tricks ain't walking. Tricks ain't walking no more.
This is blues, dirty blues.
And I've got to make my living. Don't care where I go. I need shoes on my feet, clothes on my back. Get tired of walking these streets, all dressed in black. But tricks ain't walking. Tricks ain't walking no more.
She said tricks ain't walking no more because she's looking for tricks. So she can get a prostitute.
Oh, baby, honey, I've been all night long. You can suck my sock, baby, until the cows come home. You know both of my men, they are tight like that. They got a great big dick, just like a baseball bat. Fuck me, do it to me all night long.
Hey, I'm gonna post this shit on my Twitter. Hold on. Where's my Twitter at? I'll have to post this on my social media, Twitter and shit. Hold on. Hey, FBA. This is what influenced your Cardi B's, the B, and Nicki Minaj's. Give me a second. I gotta post this on my Twitter page. It gotta be posted. What the fuck? Right, give me 1 second. This bitch Bogan talked about having a nigga having a big dick like a baseball bat. That's insane. I'm gonna find someone. I ain't done. Shit, you think I'm done with your FBA, nigga? And she was born in 1897, raised in Birmingham, Alabama. So she's an FBA, homegrown. Let's look at oh, she talked about gambling and lesbianisms. Ooh wee. Ooh wee. Ooh wee. Ooh wee. What's the other bitches that was here? Miss Mel Rainey and Bessie Smith. Let's look these hoes up.
Why is everyone spiraling over YouTube banning ad blockers? Like, chill, guys. Just use Pi. It's a free Chrome extension that's actually made by one of the founders of.
Nobody cares. He ain't even paying me to put an ad up there.
Black bottom stomps and the new baby. The other night at a swell affair. Soon as the boys found out that I was there, they said, "Come on, Mom, let's go to the cabaret." When I got there, they began to say, "I want to see that dance they call the black bottom. I want to learn that dance. I want to see that dance they call the big black bottom. Look what you in a tan."
Little bitch was twerking.
Neighborhood, your black bottom is really good. Come on and show me the black bottom. I wanna learn that dance.
Yo, FBA woman was talking about 304s being 304s dead. Another FBA. FBA. Don't play with me. Y'all gonna stop playing with me, bro. They call honoring the queen of blues, Miss Rainey, Big Black Bottom. Tell you about Viola Davis. Let's see here. So these were your you want to talk about Cardi B being talking about what? Miss Rainey, what's the other bitch name? Bessie. They were the architects to WAP. Oh, it's tight like that. Hold on. It's tight like that. I wonder what it means.
Oh, hello.
Let's listen.
Okay. I know about you.
Look good.
So
Listen, yeah, folks, I'm gonna sing a little song, but you mustn't get mad. I don't mean no wrong. There's an old maid named Liza Bed, always singing the blues when she tumbles in bed. Oh, it's tight like that. Oh, it's tight like that. Hear me talking to you. I mean, it's tight like that. I mean it tight like that.
This is FBA. Blues is FBA. You know what, Turkish shit, y'all are absolutely correct. FBA influenced the world. FBA influenced the Caribbean. You're absolutely correct.
Oh, the little red rooster said to the hen, you ain't laid an egg and I can't tell when. The little red hen said to the rooster, don't come around as often as you used to not tight like that. Long delay makes it tight like
Tight like that.
You're great. I am. Don't tell me you have nothing to wear.
Root Brown, if you can't sell it, if I can't sell it, I sit on it.
Real cute guy walked in one day. Saw this chair he wanted to buy, but wouldn't. Claimed the price was too high. So I looked him straight in his eye, and this was my reply. If I can't settle, I'm gonna keep sitting on it.
Nina Simone.
I ain't gonna give it away. Now, if you want it, oh darling, you got to buy it. And I mean just what I say. Now, how'd you like to find this? Waiting at home for you every night. Only been used once or twice. But it's still nice and tight. Wow! But if I can't sell it, I'm gonna sit back down on it. I ain't about to give it away. Now, you can't buy a better pair of legs than that. And a back like this, not for miles around. And that is why, if I can't sell it, I'm going to recline upon it. I don't see the need to just give it away. As it's made for comfort, built for wear and tear. Where else would you find such a easy chair? Oh, but if I can't sell it, I'm gonna sit back down on it. Why should I give it away?
Hold on. These simp ass niggas or these women love to talk about how Black American bloomers or the Gen X and how they stopped singing those love musics that they used to sing. Well, come to find out, you had a lot of black women talking about being 304s. So those men lost respect for you because of you. And come to find out, a lot of the bloomers, they thought who they were wifing up or getting into relationships with were good women. Come to find out they were just 304s. That's why a lot of y'all Black Americans and Caribbean blacks don't really know who our grandfather was. Because a lot of our mothers was our grandma and great mama, all that shit. They were 304s and hoes. They didn't have social media back in the 1930s and the 1920s. But I wanted to debunk the lie that from FBA saying that Caribbean blacks influence Black American culture to be 304s because of Uncle Luke. Bullshit. I just showed you. You can FBA women talking about being 304s. So this bit into your culture. So stop blaming Black Americans for y'all, or stop blaming Caribbean blacks for why you Black Americans have your problems. Second, you like to talk about Nipsey Hussle, Kodak Black, Nicki Minaj, and Cardi B. Well, Cardi B, remember, Nipsey Hussle, although he's from, I think, Ethiopia, I can't say the name of that country, he was raised and influenced by LA Black gang FBA culture. Nicki Minaj was inspired by the Little Kims. Kodak Black was inspired by Black American culture. Pop Smoke, all these people, right? Pop Smoke was influenced by Black American New York culture. So all these tethers, they had to adapt a lot of your Black culture to be successful in hip hop and rap. So cut the bullshit. And guess what? FBAs took out PNB Rock. FBAs took out Pop Smoke. FBAs took out Nipsey Hussle. All the Black American men, or the tethers, the Caribbeans that were in hip hop, FBA took them out. And FBA, by the name of Diddy, is alleged that he had something to do with Biggie's death and Tupac's death. And Biggie's a Jamaican. So a lot of your FBAs have been causing problems and have been had hate for Caribbean Blacks in your culture. That's why you take their lives or set them up to get their life taken from them. Let me look up something else. KRS-One. Give me 1 second. Yeah. What do you want? All right. Put it there. Let me see. Because mind you, J. Prince and Rapper Rock Records, they are FBA. I wish I could find the video. Because what people don't know is that a lot of the boomers that owned a lot of Rap A Lot records, they were ripping off a lot of the Gen X. This is why a lot of the rap industries are owned by a lot of European people now, or like the so-called Jews that's there. It's because a lot of those boomers sold out to a lot of those Europeans over there, sold out a lot of the Gen X rappers and hip-hop artists, right? Being ripped off.
There's a real motherfucking New Yorker in this world, and he's ripping hip-hop to the fucking fucking fuck radio, fuck MTV, fuck BET, fuck all these people that sold our culture out. Stop supporting them. He's showing your children that to slide up and down a pole is something memorable. That's what you should be doing as a black woman.
Oh, hold on. This is another one. Oh, the stop line.
You should be trying to come out the trap house and go right to the fucking strip club. What is our children listening to? What is our children listening to? These are grown men and women willingly selling you out. And what do we dance along with that shit? And no
Hold on, let me play this.
What was whack about hip hop? The worst thing, 1979 Sugar Hill Records, is the worst thing that ever happened to hip hop. When Sugar Hill Records came out, a woman named Sylvia Robinson and her husband Joey Robinson, they owned all of rap. If you could somehow fathom that in your head for a hot minute, there was one record label that had all the top rappers of the day on it, and no other company had that. Had we stuck together, Black people would not be in this situation. They say hip hop is a $10 billion culture every year. That's Black people money we should be having. But Black people rejected us and lost $10 billion a year.
KRS is talking about the bloomers with Sugar Hill Records and Rap-A-Lot Records. This is FBA bloomers. So FBA bloomers, you want to talk about hip hop, but you sold out the people who helped to build it. You dropped the ball. So you can't blame Caribbean blacks because KRS-One is a Caribbean black, and he was under a FBA record label. So you have to look towards FBA guys in hip hop from the Bloomer era that owned a lot of these record companies and sold out a lot of these record companies and sold out the culture. Don't look towards Caribbean blacks. You need to look towards your own.
Dr. Martin Luther King, his last, what he called Hill of Hope, disrespected. For us to climb the hill of hope was an economic plan. He was such a prophet.
Yeah, Muhammad, like the live, share, subscribe.
First of all, there's a film of him just before he's killed.
This is a live video about debunking some of the lies told by FBA against Caribbean blacks, mainly Jamaican blacks, right? So this one, debunking the lie that Caribbean blacks influence hip-hop culture to degradation. And I'm debunking them by saying, well, this came from your FBA. And I was showcasing how you had Black American FBA women from the 1930s talking about B&304s in the music that inspired the Nicki Minaj's and the Cardi B's and the Ice Spices. So
when he's talking to gang members in Chicago and trying to put them up on game, saying, look, young blood, and this is like, I don't know if I ever seen Malcolm X with gang members. I don't think I ever I'm not quite sure he was, but it's not documented. Dr. King is documented sitting there with gang members in Chicago in the 60s, black men. And he's talking to them. And the issue is that hip hop came out right after that. It fulfilled Dr. King's dream of economic freedom. We did it on our own. No handouts, no welfare. We pulled hip hop out of us, and it was 10 billion. Our parents. Oh, you ain't shit. You ain't never gonna be nothing. You ain't yee gaga goo. 10 billion a year gone. Whole dream of Dr. King gone. Take it up now to Sugar Hill Records. All the greatest hip hop acts are on the label. But they're not getting treated right. Black people are ripping off black people. I say this respectfully because I'm talking about our parents. These are older blacks ripping off the talent of younger blacks, respectfully. KRS, Stop the Rock, Boogie Down Productions, B-Boy Records. Black men are taking advantage of young black talent.
Mm.
B-Boy Records was owned by black people, older black men from the 50s and 60s.
Bloomers.
You would think, after everything he went through in civil rights, you see a young man coming up, he calls himself Knowledge Reigns Supreme. And he's trying to come up, he's homeless, he's in the street, but he's talking that blackness. And you see he got a crowd around him. And you see he got some little time, you're not going to dust him off and say, yo, young blood, come on, let me show you something. Let me protect you. No, they were the first ones to come in, rip off me and Scott LaRock for the Criminal Minded album. To this very day, black folks still ripping me off for the Criminal Minded album. To this very day. Because I'm already a wealthy person, I really don't care. So I allow black folk to eat off the album. I allow bootleggers to eat off the album. I allow people to do that. It doesn't bother me. But if you want to talk principle, black people are taking it, they're eating their children.
FBA.
They're eating their children. This is the worst thing to happen to not only hip hop, but to black civilization in the United States.
And your FBA, you want to claim hip hop, but your FBA bloomers, they sold you out. That's what they did. Right? Last thing I'm going to do. How has dance hall reggae influenced the globe? Now, people like to say that hip hop is a force that preached, liberation and it touched the globe, which I agree. I believe that hip hop was a big force, and it played a big role in helping Black Americans to get their struggles out to the world. Right? Hip hop influenced Japan, Europe, Africa, and so forth. But hip hop's brother, influenced by Jamaicans called dancehall reggae, also influenced the globe, and it was also a force to be reckoned with too, because dancehall reggae spoke about issues going on in Jamaica with the Rastafarianism thing, civil rights and black liberation, right? And in Japan, there's a whole sound system subculture that's influenced by dancehall reggae. So let me put up, right? So let me put this here. Dancehall has influenced many other genres, including hip-hop, punk, and rock. For example, reggae's toasting technique and discovery of dubbing led to the development I'm not going to put that. I don't want to offend any of you hip-hop niggas. Inspiring counterculture movements. Reggae helped to develop new counterculture movements in Europe, the USA, and Africa. For example, reggae was part of the birth of the skinhead movement in the UK in the late 1960s. Pop stars like Justin Bieber, Rihanna have released music inspired by dancehall sounds. Canadian rapper Drake has also released a number of dancehall-inspired hits. Right? Right. Okay, so let me put dancehall reggae influence on Japan. Dancehall reggae has a significantly impacted Japan by creating a large dedicated subculture where Japanese fans deeply embrace Jamaican dancehall style. With many sound system dancers and even Japanese artists achieving recognition in Jamaica dancehall scene, particularly after Japanese dancer named Junko Kudo won the Jamaican Dancehall Queen competition in 2002. This had led to a thriving Japanese dancehall scene with strong connection to authentic Jamaican style, despite the lack of large Caribbean diaspora in Japan. See what I'm saying? So now I bet whatever her name is, the reason why she won that shit is because she's Japanese. She's like light skinned and fairer skinned and shit. All right. Well, I'm not taking anything away from her talent. That means that Jamaican woman, y'all gotta step your game up. Spice, you need to step your game up and shit. There's a lot of issues going on in dancehall reggae too. Right. Dancehall reggae music in the East. All right. Even in small-scale nations, Jamaica cultural impact has been massive, becoming a global sensation all the way to Asia, from China to Thailand. Naisha Oliver writes about the history of island musical gifts to the East, dancehall and reggae, and the Asian artists who have been inspired. Jamaica, the country of my culture and heritage, has profoundly influenced the world. When it comes to music from the island, reggae and dancehall are the center of inspiration for countries across Asia. The impact is not new, as it all started in the 1970s. Reggae band Pioneers was one of the first to be welcomed in countries like Japan in 1975. And soon after, Bob Marley, Diana King, and others were noted for their travels for performing in and around Asia. It wasn't just music, but also films, like The Harder They Come, Rockers, and Dancehall Queen, that boasted reggae and dancehall. Chinese Jamaican Vincent Randy and Patricia Chin, known as Miss Pat, and the mother of reggae, are innovators in ways that many people may not know. Having first owned Randy Records in Kingston, Jamaica, they then moved to New York and established the label VP Records in 1979. Today, they are the powerhouse independent label with artists like Busy Signal, Spice under their roster. Behind the scenes, Mikey and Jeffrey Chung, Leslie Kong, and damn, this is a lot of damn Asians over here, and the Dragonaires have also long been in the music industry since the 1950s, making an impact as records producers and musicians. When dancehall began getting popular, it was the turn of the millennium. Bounty Killer, Elephant Man, and Beanie Man were three who took the lead along with Shaggy and Sean Paul, who gave mainstream hits like It Wasn't Me and Give Me the Light in 2000s. In recent years, there's been a plethora of artists who have gained global recognition. Spice, Vibes Cartel, Alkaline Shansia, Mr. Vegas, Coffee, Popcorn, Movado, Egyptian, to name a few. All right. There also been an influx of mixing reggae and dancehall with other genres like Ampina and trap and Afro beats. In the midst of it all, I was introduced as a teenager to the winner of Jamaica's Dancehall Queen in 2002, Junko Kudo. All right. So I'm going to post. So let's look at what it says about China. Historically, musically, China and Jamaica have ties. In China, it's on a large scale. When people think of reggae in the country, Yunnan province has a big community. The band Kawa, and I don't know how you say that, is one of the major artists across China, and the other was Long Sheng Dao from Beijing. Kawa is known for starting Yamen reggae, incorporating ethnic elements into their interpretation of the genre. A look how the genre impacts cities like Shanghai can be found in Gold Thread's short documentary. The reggae artist mentioned in the video, Jado, was known as the co-founder of Far East. So this is sound systems modeled after reggae and dancehall in China and Tokyo, Japan. Right? Yo, this is crazy. Malaysia, you have dancehall reggae in Malaysia and shit. Philippines, South Korea. What? I did not know reggae was in South Korea. Dancehall was like that in South Korea. Taiwan, Thailand. That's crazy. Influence on America. And dancehall reggae, even though the Puerto Ricans might not want to agree, but it influenced reggaeton, right? A lot of Black Americans. Now, this is going to go into my point where Black Americans lie and contradict on themselves, because I've heard Black Americans on social media and Twitter say they never liked reggae music. They didn't listen to reggae music during the 80s and during the 70s. They listened to disco. Yet, they love to talk about how they listened to Bob Marley. So which one is it? And it goes to the point, my point is that Black Americans never accepted Jamaicans into your culture. Because if you did accept us into your culture, then you would have accepted and embraced reggae music. But if you're saying on Twitter and social media that you never listened to Bob Marley, you didn't like Bob Marley, you don't like reggae music, that means you didn't accept us into your culture. Which one is it, right? But anyway, thank you for the viewership. For those of you that came into my channel, this is Kid Shorty Gaming Nation. Click the like, share, and subscribe. And I'm out. Oh, I mean, hold on. For instance, in conclusion, right? Let me do in conclusion to what I have to say. Again, I don't have an issue if FBA want to have their own culture and their own expression. I don't disagree that if FBA say hip hop is foundationally ours and here's the proof and the evidence, and it shows that FBA is a Black American culture creation, I would agree with that. I'm not mad at that. My argument is that FBA wants to pretend as if they were not discriminating or being prejudiced towards Caribbean Blacks when you were. And hopefully this video today and what I played can debunk and demystify some of the lies being told. Like one of the lies that, Jamaican Blacks and dancehall reggae influence Black Americans to be ratchet. When you had ratchet Black women since the 1930s, apparently, talking about being 304s and about how Jamaicans caused the crime rate the drug and crime rate to increase during the 80s. When you had prominent FBA dope dealers like Frank Wallace, like what's his name? Frank Lucas, Freeway Ricky Ross, Frank Matthews, Black Mafia family, Big Meech, Bloods and the Crips, Folk and GD. All these are FBA gangs that terrorize your own African American FBA communities way before Jamaican Blacks got here. So, anyway, this is Kid Shorty Gaming Nation, and I'm out. You guys have a good one. Click like, share, and subscribe.